What a beautiful way to end the first day with this beautiful panel talking about a very important topic, which is investment and money in general, and entrepreneurs, for everybody who's interested in this topic. So since you started with this amazing opportunity, Amanda, would like to know more and would like you to tell us a little bit more about Singularity's numerous successful global impact challenges. How do you structure them for the greater possible impact, and what outcomes have you seen come fruition, and what's different or comparable about this one?
Yeah, thank you. I think what the global impact challenges all have in common is some kind of orientation towards making positive change in the world. But the form that takes can look really different. Sometimes it's geographically bound, sometimes there is a specific challenge, as in with this one. But it always is about convening the most passionate and active entrepreneurs in the space to put forth their ideas. And what's really interesting is to see how some of these companies evolve over time. So Dendra Systems, one of the winners that I mentioned, didn't start with drones and AI specifically for land restoration, but originally they were doing something much broader, still leveraging data for different kinds of climate change solutions. But over time, they've honed that in and really found the product market fit that works for them and creates the most impact in the world. Mm-hmm. So I'm really thrilled to see what kind of solutions that we see coming for digital well-being and how those evolve.
Well, I am excited too. I think each region of the world has different mindset. So definitely there will be something out of the box coming up from this region, if I may say. The next question is for you, Mashhoor. So what are some key trends or emerging technologies that you see as particularly promising for addressing societal challenges? How do you seek out these ideas and the entrepreneurs implementing them and their most potentially impactful innovations?
So it can be tough to identify certain trends in this area due to the diverse focus. So you have ideas that are tackling educational challenges, ideas that are tackling a variety, basically, of challenges in all fields. So you have to narrow down your focus in which field or industry that you're interested in, and try to spot the international trends in this field. And they could be very different from one country to another, because every country is trying to tackle its unique societal challenges. And what I personally do, at least from a Saudi perspective, is first observe these various international trends in various industries, see which ones are able to scale and mature into advanced stages, and then see if there are any entrepreneurs who are working on basically copying this model to address our also unique societal challenges. And the way we find these entrepreneurs is usually or mostly in innovation hubs, where they try to gather together, discuss these new ideas, these new trends and their unique focus, and see how they can support each other to tackle an area with its unique societal challenges.
Great. And now let's take it to our guest, of course. Sorry. Because we're talking about big numbers, so when I saw the numbers, I'm like, should I read this number? But yeah, I'm so gonna read it. So Haifa, you are the head of direct investments for the Saudi venture capital company, which has a plan to invest around 2.8 billion Saudi riyals, and if you are trying to convert that into dollars, that equals almost 750 million. So you are planning to invest this in high-growth startups and SMEs with growth potential to simulate the development of the venture investment ecosystem in Saudi Arabia. So I want to ask, how do you identify which startup and SMEs have the high growth potential for this kind of investment? And what degree do you see social responsibility within businesses as contributing to their likely growth?
First of all, thank you so much. Maybe just a quick update on our numbers. I think our fund size has increased. It was initially 2.08 billion riyal, but today we're actually above $2 billion. And that was actually more of like, I would say, a sign of success that we were doing the right thing. But let me maybe just, shed the light on what we do. And how we've been creating impact. I think impact is the language that we speak at SVC. It's at the core of what we do at SVC. We were established back in 2018 with a main purpose. We started with a main purpose to stimulate and develop the venture capital market. And we had a great success story that we are very proud of. I think if I can shed the light on some of the numbers, I think starting maybe with total funding. If you look at 2018 where we were established, total funding was about $65 million. In 2023, it was about $1.4 billion. And that represents more than actually 18x. Another thing is that the number of startups also increased drastically. We have Mashhoor here, who hosts like a great podcast. And I think Mashhoor was able to, interview a significant number of our startups that actually had amazing and great success stories. So another thing is definitely a number of fund managers. When we started, we had only 2 fund managers in the market. Today, we invested in more than 50 fund managers, and not only local, but regional and international fund managers who are investing in KSA. Of course, number of founders increased, and so on. But what does that mean in terms of, with everything that we achieved and all the figures I mentioned, what does that mean in terms of social impact? I think we are very proud to say that we indirectly, directly stimulated more than 16,000 jobs. We were able to increase female participation and help in whether on the investment or the entrepreneurship space. I think we played the major. We still need to do a lot, and there are so many things that we need to do in terms of I would say gender inclusion and so on. But I think we had a good starting point. So when we had a good story on the venture capital market, today we're actually trying to replicate the same on the private capital, private equity market and the private debt as well. So we're very proud and happy with what we're doing, and this is just the beginning, and we're only scratching the surface.
Wow, that's really inspiring. It is. Getting back to Amanda, so can you share with us about Singularity, since we're talking about this amazing opportunity? Can you share with us some success stories of tech entrepreneurs who have already used Singularity's university's resources to create positive societal impact?
Yeah, one example that I was thinking about, which in some ways is working on a social disconnection issue, is a company called Be My Eyes. And they were inspired by a friend who was blind, and he was talking about how he would call his friends and family to help sometimes with daily tasks over FaceTime. And they created this company it's an app where they will connect you with volunteers who essentially are your eyes and will help you with those small tasks. And thinking about the impact model, they have an interesting model where it's always free to the user, and they also have business clients who are coming in and helping, doing more sort of accessibility services in a company, and that's really where their revenue comes from. So that's a company that has been out in the world now for probably at least a decade doing this work. They've evolved now with AI, but I really, really love their mission.
That's amazing. It's very funny that I went to the States last year, and I went to Colorado, where I visited also a nonprofit organization where they dedicated for blind people and actually read all the newspaper, magazines, all the publication for them. So without even requesting what to read, they have it all, whatever is submitted every day, but it's only, of course, in the state of Colorado. So it's really nice to have such a mission and have a startup that start as a nonprofit, and then it could be actually a company and help other people. Something really inspiring.
And I have one more example to share real quick. With a woman who was from Myanmar, and she was an educator there, and she ended up creating a company called 360 Ed, which was creating augmented reality textbooks that did not require an internet connection or a computer. You could just have a simple tablet, and so she was deploying these in Myanmar. And then when the coup happened, she had to leave the country and relocate her entire business to the US, but they have stayed in operation the whole time, and they are now serving hundreds of thousands of kids around the world, bringing education to places where they might not have the same kinds of resources.
Wow, that's really inspiring. Well, Mashhoor, This one is for you now. So how do you balance financial returns with social impact when evaluating investment opportunities in the technology sector? How do you make this work sustainable for all involved?
So it can be a bit challenging, especially in the region, because it's not in an advanced stage compared to the United States, for example, or Europe. The focus is still mostly on financial returns, so that's the vast majority of startups, at least. So you have to look at it from different perspectives. You either try to incorporate it into your maybe unique selling proposition or value proposition. For example, if you use a cafe as an example, maybe they promote that they're more environmentally friendly, use paper straws instead of plastic straws. It's still something that they're doing for the environment, but at the same time, they're doing it to target a specific and attract a specific set of customers. So we can use this example as something that you can do also in your startup. It also helps a lot in attracting talent from Gen Z and upcoming generations, because they're more mission-driven. They want to serve a purpose instead of serve a company that just helps them increase their financial returns. So that helps a lot in hiring. It also helps in mitigating any potential risks for your reputation, any upcoming regulatory updates, since everyone is going in that direction in terms of protecting the environment, improving the societal circumstances. So you would be future-proofing your enterprise to support not just startups that are focused on societal initiatives, but also traditional startups that could incorporate maybe some additional initiatives or some features that can support society overall. So it's a tricky question, to be honest. You can't address it directly, but I think I've shared some of the things that you can utilize to incorporate that.
That's really interesting. So basically, if anybody's starting whatever business X, the first thing, if I understand very well from you, that they really need to study their audience and their customers.
Yeah.
In order to come with the trends.
They might find the segment that they could target for better financial return that are more aligned with societal causes. So they can, at the same time, at the same time, target those societal challenges and also generate money from this segment that cares most about them.
Great, interesting. Okay, so Haifa, which sectors are you seeing the most innovative startups and SMEs that make a difference to the well-being of society? Can you give us an example of a business that you saw in which SVC has invested that particularly stand out for you?
So I think to Mashhoor's point, we're still at a nascent stage, the overall market. But to be honest, there are some sectors, specific sectors, that are impact-driven by its nature, like the health tech or the ed tech or even agri-tech. They address like serious problems in the society and in the market. But I'll give you a couple of examples that I believe are outstanding and are like somehow impact-driven. We have two actually companies that we invested in recently directly, Salla and Hala. Both are, one is actually a fintech company, which is Hala, and actually TPG, which is a US-based fund manager, invested in Hala and led the round. And TPG is mainly focused on impact. They have a fund called Rise, and they only invest, they have like a specific methodology that they follow in order to actually invest in companies. And Hala fulfilled that methodology because they served SMEs. Salla as well, it's basically a platform that offers the infrastructure for micro, small, and medium businesses to have online stores. And the amount of SMEs that they help and support, it's over, you're talking about more than 17,000 SMEs. So it's not considered as, or it's not labeled as an impact investment, but they have an indirect impact on the overall society. Of course, there are other maybe companies. We have a company called Labbe that actually addresses or focuses on mental health, which is like a serious or maybe a huge gap that we have in the market. And they have over 2 million users in the Saudi market. And I would say that females represent majority of that, maybe around or more than 80% of that. So There are certain, another example which is very interesting, it's a newly actually established company. It's a pre-seed company. It's called Baraka. Baraka basically targets, this is actually, they label themselves as an impact-driven startup. What they do, they actually help in minimizing wasted food produced by restaurants, hotels, and so on. So if you look at the global maybe scene, 40% of the produced food is actually gets wasted. Saudi market is around that percentage as well, which represents about, I would say, over $13 billion in terms of lost revenues. So the business model of Baraka actually addresses three different, I would say, aspects. The first one is the social, which is or the environmental, which is basically saving the food. And then you have the companies, helping the companies to have a better overall financial performance. And last but not least, the consumers to actually find affordable food, because they offer the wasted food, the wasted food at between 50% to 70% discount. So, and today they have over 12,000 users. They saved over 11,000 meals. So, and they're still at the beginning. If you look at the global, definitely examples, they actually, they're sizable companies, profitable, and they have that impact, I would say, a balance between being financially driven and having an impact on the whether social or environmental aspects.
So I would say that Saudi Arabia is a great place to start such an initiative. And so basically with this, I can say that a lot of people, if you have an idea and you believe in it and you feel that it's going to have an impact, people should start.
Definitely.
Yeah, with all the investment that you're planning to put on, everybody should start, actually.
It's a good time for founders, to be honest, yeah.
That's true. Well, Amanda, what does the promise of digital wellness hold for an organization like Singularity? Why focus on this specific issue right now? And why partner with Sync, as we can see right now, address misinformation and cyberbullying and social disconnection specifically, as you mentioned?
Well, I spoke about our vision for a future of abundance. And I don't think you can have that if we're all miserable because of technology at the same time. We can solve health and water and food, but at the end of the day, people are people, and we have to be comfortable with technology. So that's kind of one piece of it. But I think also these issues of misinformation, cyberbullying, and social disconnection have grown so much so recently. One of the things I was thinking back on is that we had never had a challenge in this area pre-pandemic. And we see how quickly that some of our concerns have changed. So I think one of the things that we also wrestle with at Singularity is over 15 years of existence. Some of the ideas that we could be just shiny, bright, and new and optimistic about, we've seen the negative sides of those over time. And so really having to be honest about what it's going to take to make sure that we find those positive futures and get to those positive futures. And I think this is the best way to take action to start getting there.
Interesting, really interesting. Mashhoor, in your experience, what are some key factors that contribute to the success of technology startup focused on societal good? Can you share an example of technology startup you've invested in that is already making meaningful or different, or alternatively, your dream or the ideal startup that it would benefit the society?
So an ideal startup would be a startup, just going to the last part, because I think it also addressed the first part, is finding an entrepreneur who could solve a problem that we're struggling with today. So we could maximize the financial return from it, and also help people address the societal issues related to this problem. One example, for example, is today we're having growing demands for food delivery in Saudi Arabia. And you have a lot of deliveries being made on bikes, which pose additional dangers to the cars and the streets and to people as well, and even to the bike drivers on their own. And you see some R&D work on autonomous food delivery, which I think is very promising, but it still misses the regulatory framework to allow this kinds of companies to be developed. But this kind of startup where it solves an existing problem in a very big market that could help both the people improve safety and also increase or maximize financial returns, I think these are the most interesting, because it's easy to try to start a company that addresses a niche societal challenge, which there is a lot of companies like that, and it's hard to find investors for this kind of company. And personally, it would be very hard for me to invest in one if I'm not, unless I'm allocating some, a smaller part of my portfolio to just to support social causes with no expectancy, of any returns. Find a big market, see a problem that they're suffering from, that can be solved with something that helps society as well along the way.
Yeah. Do you have any example in mind about something that is, containing all the points that you mentioned?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Do you have any example about something that is happening here in Saudi Arabia, a startup that tackles all the things that you mentioned?
Unfortunately, no. So Labbe was mentioned, which tackles mental health, but with every startup I've met that tries to tackle a similar challenges, whether it's in the health sector or any other sector, it's usually relatively small in terms of financial performance. So maybe you find a lot of users there, but financially it's still trying to find that sweet spot where it can maximize the financial return as much as they're doing from the societal perspective. So I don't have any example in mind right now. I think it's something that we aspire to see in the future.
Hopefully. Well, and the last question we have is for you, Haifa. Saudi Arabia achieved the top ranking of the MENA region for venture capital investment in 2023. What makes Saudi such a rich opportunity for startups, and what advice do you have for investors and entrepreneurs operating in the social impact space to ensure their business is attractive to investors?
Sure. So first of all, we're very proud of the first ranking that happened for the first time. But I think, again, as we mentioned earlier, we're still at a nascent stage to have that focus on maybe impact investing. But I think we're already doing it in one way or another. But generally speaking, as I mentioned, it's a good time for founders to actually be founders and to actually start their own businesses and so on. Why? Because the government, actually stakeholders across different sectors, are very aligned to help and support in actually accelerating entrepreneurship and helping in growing that sector. Be it, regulators, including CMA, SAMA, Tadawul, all of them are working together and, trying their best to address any challenges in the market. You have also MISA, which is Ministry of Investment, trying to facilitate, I would say, some foreign investments, which is definitely important for the market. And you have also the funding government initiatives, the likes of SVC, JADA, that are there to actually help and support this overall ecosystem. But regardless of everything I mentioned, there are certain, I would say, initiatives from the government that helps and supports certain sectors, like the agri-tech. There is a 1 billion actually investment that was announced to help the building more greenhouses, and I think tech would be part of that overall initiative. We have a good example, which is Red Sea Farms. It's basically mainly agri-tech, and it's addressing one of the most challenges, which is food security. So there are different specific, I would say, initiatives from the government to help and address certain, I would say, sectors that are somehow impact-driven.
Thank you so much. Thank you. What an incredible opportunity actually to have the three of you here. Thank you so much, Amanda and Mashhoor and Haifa, for sharing all these insightful information about investing and entrepreneur and business in general. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.